We welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. He's Rogers Hampton. I'm Patrick Netherton. Very pleased to have you with us. And we're having a little bit of a different chat going on today. All right, this is pre-recorded. It's a Sunday afternoon. I'm in Jefferson, Texas at my friend Stephen Joseph's Riverport BBQ. I've told you all about it. We know all about it. Everyone knows about Riverport BBQ at this point. But we're having a fireside chat today with a really interesting kid, and I call him a kid because he is. All right, I'm 42. This guy is 23. He's about to be 24 years old, but he is on his way to becoming a barbecue pitmaster. He's already got his own spot. You may remember, I guess 7 weeks ago now, I told the story of when the Demons opened their season at Tennessee Martin. I made a trek. I went to Craig's in Devall's Bluff, Arkansas. I made that whole sojourn through Alabama where I hit both Archibald's and Dreamland at the same time. I hit Big Bob Gibson's in Decatur, Alabama. Did that whole thing. Well, part of that trip was on the recommendation of my good friend Stephen Joseph, stopped at a place called Blake's BBQ in Martin, Tennessee. It's a food truck, basically, that is in Martin, Tennessee, a place where you don't really expect to find good Texas-style barbecue. Well, lo and behold, we did, and it's because it's again, I call him a kid. It's not a derogatory term because he's a young guy, and he's out there. He's working. He's got his own food truck. He's learned from Texas barbecue guys, and we'll talk about his journey. His name's Blake Stoker from Blake's BBQ in Martin, Tennessee, and we are actually next to the pit at Riverport BBQ. He's making a trip through Texas to try a bunch of barbecue, and so we are here hanging out. Stephen Joseph was nice enough to throw some logs on as it's a cool afternoon here on a Sunday, and so we're by the pit enjoying some fire. So it's a fireside chat on the Patrick Netherton Show with Blake Stoker. And Blake, man, this is pretty wild. I'm not going to lie, because most of the time when I show up to go to various barbecue places, you're meeting these pitmasters, and they're either youngish, but the young guys are late 30s, early 40s, or they're grizzled veterans. They've been doing it for 40 years, that kind of thing. Tell me how you decided to get into this, because you're 23 and you're doing barbecue the right way in Martin, Tennessee. Why did you decide to get into this?
Right, so I guess to back up, coming out of I played football in high school, had zero time. I took it seriously, devoted all my time and energy to it. Got out of, I'd always enjoyed cooking, but simple stuff like eggs and breakfasty type stuff, casseroles, did some dessert baking and stuff like that. But as I got into college, I got a lot more time, not playing football anymore. I got a big green egg, so I got more into the grilling type stuff. To skip ahead a little bit, I guess in fall or winter of 2015, my dad got me the infamous Franklin barbecue book. So like many others, I read it cover to cover. Never enjoyed a book besides it in my life, but read it cover to cover probably 2 or 3 times. That sort of ignited my, I guess you'd call it, barbecue bug. Between now and then, my father and I took a Texas barbecue crawl, did William Miller barbecue in Taylor, and then Franklin the next morning in Austin, and worked our way back towards New Orleans. So we hit a place or two in Houston on our way back east. Since then, I think this is I'm on, as Patrick mentioned a minute ago, I'm on another Texas barbecue crawl for my birthday. And I think this makes like number 13. So I've hit, out of the top 50, I've hit, I think, in the 30, 31, 32 range. And know personally most all the, owners of those places. The Millers in Belton, Texas at Miller's Smokehouse, John Brotherton at Brotherton's Black Iron. Just, I could name a million, I guess. But just got into it that way. And my father and his friend built me 2 Franklin-style smokers in late 2015, finished them up in the early spring of 2016, and I've been cooking on them ever since. I opened Blake's BBQ. My first day of business, I think, was May 16th of 2016 or May 12th of 2016, and I ran it. I went to Mississippi State for college, so for the first 3 years I was open in Dresden, Tennessee. I ran my trailer during my summer breaks back home, and then graduated college in 2017. Came back and ran it one more year in Dresden at that location. Had to shut down for the winter last year to sort of take care of some other stuff with, I'm sure we'll talk a little more about it, but transitioned to brick and mortar. Had to finalize some real estate stuff with that, and then opened back up over in Martin, Tennessee, which is where I'm located now, and just about a third of a mile from where my brick and mortar is going to be. Relocated there in May of this year, and am now there and going to be there until we transition into my brick and mortar location. So that's where I'm at now.
Talking to Blake Stoker from Blake's BBQ in Martin, Tennessee. Again, we're in Jefferson as he's making a little crawl for his upcoming 24th birthday. Again, that's insane that you're that young. The cool thing, I think, about Texas BBQ, and as you meet these guys, the owners, the Pitmasters, is there is a real fraternity of these folks, and a very willingness to share with each other. You come to a guy like Stephen Joseph, and he'll tell you everything you want to know. You go and you meet guys in Austin and Houston, and they'll take you through it. They're willing to share. What's that been like? Because you're a guy who likes to emulate Texas BBQ, but what's that been like being able to learn from some of these guys and reach out to them and have them answer you and give you some of the secrets that they're using?
Oh, just unbelievable, like you said. I've gotten a lot of their ideas, about the cooks and stuff, or about cooking the actual stuff themselves, but also a lot of stuff dealing with logistics of running, managing a business, managing a restaurant business in particular, and a barbecue business in particular, furthermore. So just unbelievable how willing to share, happy to have me in. For instance, Russell and Missy Regals at Regals Barbecue in Houston had me come and help with them at the Houston Barbecue Festival this past spring. So, yeah, the fraternity sense of it and, community, family, whatever you want to call it, that culture with Texas Barbecue, I've tried to relate it to people back in West Tennessee that just think about the biggest Tennessee Vols fan, or if you're from Louisiana, the biggest LSU fan you can think of. That's how everybody feels about Texas barbecue in Texas. Doesn't matter what age or what demographic or, what background you come from. It's just a real culture. And then within that, the actual fraternity sense between the owners and whatnot is just, unprecedented with anything else I know of.
Blake Stoker from Blake's BBQ in Martin, Tennessee. All right, so you're cooking Texas barbecue. And for those that, obviously, if you listen to my show, you heard enough about Texas barbecue, the Texas Trinity, brisket, ribs, sausage. Brisket, though, is the big thing that Texas is known for, beef. You get up into where you're at, you're next to Memphis, about 2 hours from Memphis. You're looking at ribs, pork, pulled pork. It's a very pork-centric area of the world. What's it been like trying to introduce brisket to a crew of people and a group of people that are very pork-centric?
Right. Well, I guess I'm 4.5 years into it now. The first year, it was, super hard. And still, we were talking about earlier, now, I'm as big of a hit as the brisket is at Blake's BBQ. By volume, I'm still selling a lot more pork because these people, whether they're 30 or whether they're 73, they've grown up eating pork barbecue, and that's what they're used to. But, they've grown to trust me, and on top of the brisket, I do a house group pastrami brisket, and that's just like scientific wonder to people back home, and I get it. That's not something that's been common, and I don't know anywhere within a couple hours that you can get it from back home, but people have been trusting, and it took a whole lot of sort of the Louis Miller style handing a burn-in out, say, hey, because I have countless people come up over the years and say, oh, I don't like brisket, never liked brisket. Well, let me cut you a little bite. Let's see what you think. Oh, how can you get that by the pound or a sandwich, or can I get a couple pounds of that? So all it really takes is just giving them a bite, getting them to try it. Same deal has been with the turkey. People think turkey breast. Okay, turkey, dry, sort of plain, nothing to it. Breast, well, that's going to be I personally never order. I went to Gus's Fried Chicken last night in Memphis. I didn't get a two-piece white meat plate. I got a dark meat plate, so I'm as much of a dark, fattier, meat type person as anyone. But just like the Texas style turkey breast, which doesn't have the Texas tradition that beef brisket has. It's more of a newer oncoming protein with Texas BBQ. But people have been trusting, and you give samples, and then word spreads, and it's been a smoother transition for people than I guess you might would expect.
You're a barbecue drug dealer is basically what you are. The first bite's free, and then you have to pay for it after that. You get them hooked, you hook them, and then you bring them in. Talking to Blake Stoker from Blake's BBQ in Martin, Tennessee. All right, so you're an unusual case. Like I mentioned, you're a young kid that's out there. You own your own place. You're growing into a pitmaster at this point. I mean, you're certainly well on your way. I would call you a pitmaster right now, and you're heading in that direction to being one of those legendary types because you're starting so young. What have you learned, and how has maybe your youth served you? Because, unlike some guys that might be 50, 60, 70 years old, you have youth on your side. So you've got that extra energy. What have you learned, and how have you been able to harness that youth to try to help you in the early stages of you becoming this pitmaster?
I would say probably, I've never thought of that, but I would say off the top of my head, the biggest advantage to being young and not coming, this is another tidbit, I didn't come from a family with a history of barbecue whatsoever. So you mix that in, the lack of having a family history in it that might have put me set in a certain way. And then the other part of that, of being young, and I've been doing it. I've been cooking Texas barbecue for, I guess, 5-6 years. I'd have to do the math, but I came in basically as a blank canvas, no habits, no any of that. My cooks have changed a lot. They change by the day. As I've said a million times before, my goal every morning is to wake up and make the ribs and the brisket and everything else I'm doing better today than they were yesterday. So my youth has allowed me to not be, maybe set in my ways versus somebody who, been doing it for 40 years. Oh, well, I've got it under, I'm never going to change this. Well, it's okay to change and learn, and take everything as a learning point. If a cook doesn't go like you want it to, well, what went wrong, or what can be improved with it. So I guess it's given me a little more flexibility and not being so stern in my ways.
I told this story when I went to your place, but your barbecue is very much a family affair. Even though you don't have the family history of it, you're the first generation, but you have involved everyone in your family. I told the story. We sat down, lady came up and approached us and said, "You must be Patrick." And I'm like, "How does anyone know who I am in Martin, Tennessee?" And she's like, "I'm Blake's mom. Your mom's doing your desserts. Your sister is working in the truck." What's that like, having your family around you and being able to have them support you while you also support them?
It's great. It's as many people probably know, not in the restaurant business, it's kind of hard to find help. Trustworthy, gonna show up to work type help. Whenever it's your family, they're a little more invested. It may not be their name on it, but it's their son's name on it or their brother's name on it, so they feel really, really connected. And I want them to. I want them to feel as connected to it as I am. I sometimes actually don't even like that it's under my name. I felt that, and it's got to be named something, so that's why it's named Blake's. We went through like 30 different name choices, and finally just like, screw it, we're just going, go the simple way. But it's been really good. Obviously, it's like mixing church and state. It's hard to mix business and family, so it definitely creates some extra stress sometimes. Me and my sister work side by side. I'm there at the trailer about 15 hours every day, and she's there beside me for probably 9 of those. So, it gets interesting from time to time, put it that way. My mom, actually, as I was telling you earlier, had her final official day at her old employer's business on Friday, and starting whenever I get back from my trip, she's starting, I guess, to work for me full time. So I now, at 23, I'll be 24 then. I now employ both my mother and my sister, so that's kind of odd, I guess, like you're saying. But it's good, and they're very supportive. And whether we get along all day or half the day or whatever, at the end of the day, come back together, and we're waking up with the same goal to make things better the next day. So
let's talk about your brick and mortar place, because you're moving into a pretty interesting spot. You're taking over a place that a lot of people probably wouldn't think to put a barbecue restaurant in, because you've been in a food truck. As you mentioned, you were off kind of in your hometown, then you moved to Martin. Tell me about the place that you have and the renovations and where this brick and mortar spot's going to be.
it's going to be right off the end of historic downtown Martin. It is a old grain mill that was built, I believe, between 1916 and finished in 1918. I think it served as the grain mill up until the 80s, mid to late 80s. It's been used a little bit. The interior of it hasn't been used that much over the last 20, 25 years. But anyways, it's just a really historic old building. I don't know how many of the listeners are super familiar with places like Louis Miller Barbecue or City Market and Wheeling and and all the Lockhart barbecue places. But it sort of has naturally just that appeal of old nostalgia, history, a little bit dirty but in a cool way. Just has as much character as any building that I've ever seen. So we're really excited about it. The town and everybody around my customer base is excited about it, to sort of preserve a historic building that's been a landmark in our area for a long time, and they're pretty excited to get what they've hopefully grown to feel like is some pretty decent food. So being able to get that in such a cool ambiance place is going to be pretty exciting for everyone, I think. So it's going to be a long process. They started on it last week, so very early October, last couple of days of November maybe, and it's going to be a 12 to 15 month process. That's if it's not a super cold, snowy, rainy winter, but it's going to take some time. But I'd rather take time and do it right than half butt it, we'll put it that way. Rather take the time and do it right and really have it turn out the way we want it to. So
let me tell you something, man. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Gotten to see you a couple times now up at your truck and then here in Jefferson. I love the fact that the future of barbecue is in good hands, that kids who are 23, now about to be 24 years old, are taking it seriously, putting in the work. You're a guy who's putting in the work, the hours that it takes to put together tremendous barbecue. And brother, best of luck. I'm going to be supporting you the whole way. I'll be making more trips up to Martin when I get to Memphis. I'm going to head up that way and come see you. And it is awesome to know that you are helping the future of barbecue. I love that, and I love seeing your success, man.
I appreciate it. It's been great to get to know you, and I have a feeling that we'll probably meet up here several times in the future, and I hope to have you back in Martin, and maybe I'll make it to Shreveport whenever Steven gets his place that he's not committed to whatsoever, so I'm not going to frame it that way. But if Patrick gets what he's wanting, then there's going to be a Joseph's Shreveport barbecue before too long. Like I said, that's just a joke, but yeah, we'll see.
We can all hope. There's no doubt about it. He's Blake Stoker of Blake's Barbecue in Martin, Tennessee. This was our fireside chat. We're literally standing next to the pit, to the fire. Yeah, it feels great because it's a little cool outside on a Sunday in Jefferson, Texas. Obviously, we're not airing this on a Sunday, but man, a great conversation and a good kid. If you ever get to the Martin, Tennessee area, go check out Blake's Barbecue. Follow him, Blake _BBQ or BBQ underscore.
My personal is
the BBQ underscore B Stoker. There you go. Blake's Barbecue. Yeah. Blake's underscore BBQ. Gotcha. All right. So there we go. Go follow him on Instagram and enjoy the fun, man. Again, the future of barbecue is bright when you got guys 23, 24 years old who are taking it as seriously as guys like Blake are. That's when you know things are good. All right. We'll take a break. We'll come back with more of the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger.